Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're wading into some really important territory, uh, grabbing our source materials to look closely at pneumonia.
A really critical topic.
Absolutely. It hits over 1 million Americans every year, which is already a huge number, but the real kicker, it gets misdiagnosed like 40% of the time.
Which is staggering when you think about the potential consequences.
Exactly. So, our mission today for you is pretty straightforward. Cut through that confusion. We want to pull out the key bits of knowledge you need to tell the difference between maybe a bad cold and something, well, much more serious. A shortcut, if you will. But hey, before we get started, just a quick note. If you find these deep dives helpful and you want more info like this, please do check out Mind Expansion Daily.
Yeah, lots of great stuff there.
We put a lot into bringing these insights to you. So if you could hit that like button, subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily, that would be fantastic. And, if you really appreciate the info, maybe consider buying us a coffee. The link's right there in the description. Helps us keep doing this.
It really does.
Huh?
And the stakes we're discussing today, they are genuinely high. Pneumonia isn't just, a bit of a cough. It can be life-threatening.
Right.
The CDC numbers for 2024 showed 50,000 deaths. 50,000.
Wow.
And spotting it early isn't just about getting better quicker. It's literally about preventing truly severe outcomes, like sepsis. Mayo Clinic points out that carries a terrifying 30% mortality rate.
That 40% misdiagnosis figure is exactly what we need to tackle. So to get a handle on why it's so tricky, we looked at what most people probably think the main symptoms are. I actually tried this myself, just jotted down the 7 signs I thought were, the definites, based purely on common knowledge.
Okay, what did you have?
My list was cough, fever, chills, shortness of breath, chest pain, fatigue, and confusion. Seemed pretty comprehensive.
That list makes perfect sense. It covers the most common things people associate with bad chest infections.
Right. But, okay, let's unpack that, because that list, those 7 symptoms, is sort of the heart of the problem, isn't it? That's why we get that 40% misdiagnosis rate.
Exactly. Those are the symptoms it shares with less severe things, like the flu or even just bad bronchitis. The Chest Journal highlights this overlap. It's a trap.
A trap, yeah. Because you feel off, you check off those boxes, think, okay, bad flu, and you wait it out.
But waiting can be dangerous. If you look at the data, catching it early, treating it promptly, it saves lives, and frankly, it saves a lot of money too.
What kind of impact are we talking about with that delay?
It's huge, both personally and economically. Health Affairs crunched the numbers for 2024. Timely treatment actually saved about $2 billion in U.S. hospital costs.
$2 billion, just from faster diagnosis.
Yeah, mostly by cutting hospitalizations by around 25%. And then the Journal of Infectious Diseases adds that getting the right meds, antibiotics, or antivirals within the first 48 hours, that can slash recovery time by 30%.
And the flip side, if you delay,
Mortality risk jumps by 20%. So speed is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. The sources do confirm that my list of 7 symptoms, they are common. Cough is in like 80% of cases. Fever and fatigue are around 70%. Shortness of breath, 65%.
Those numbers line up. Chest pain around 50%, chills 60%, confusion, especially in older folks, about 30%. Your list wasn't wrong, per se.
But relying only on that list is where the danger lies. We need to stop focusing just on those common ones, the trap, and really highlight the signs that are maybe less common but way more critical, the red flags.
Yes, exactly. We need to shift focus to the signals that scream, this is different. And there were 2 key ones missing from your initial list. These are the ones that can be lifesavers to know.
Okay, what are they?
So the first one is nausea and vomiting. Now, that affects maybe 20% of cases. You might think, oh, stomach bug.
Totally. Easy to dismiss.
Right. But it's actually more common with viral pneumonia. And viral pneumonia is often the type that develops more slowly, making it even harder to spot early on.
Okay, so nausea, vomiting, that's one. What's the second?
The second one, and this is arguably the most critical, urgent red flag.
Yeah.
Blue lips or nails. Cyanosis.
Ah, okay.
It only happens in about 10% of cases, maybe fewer. But if you see that, it means the person's blood oxygen level is dangerously low.
That changes everything.
Absolutely. That's not, maybe I have a cold. That's a medical emergency. Call 911, get help immediately. Seeing that blue tint, that's the game changer. It overrides everything else.
So recognizing that specific sign, the blue lips or nails, that's the shortcut out of the, is it just a cold trap? That signals immediate danger.
Precisely. And what makes it even more complex, is how the symptoms present differently depending on the type of pneumonia. This also fuels the misdiagnosis problem.
How so?
Well, broadly speaking, you have 2 main camps. There's bacterial pneumonia, think Streptococcus pneumonia, that's about half the cases. It tends to hit you suddenly really hard. High fever, very pronounced symptoms, like a truck.
Okay, so that one's maybe harder to ignore generally.
Generally, yes. But then about 30% of cases are viral pneumonia, often linked to things like the flu or RSV. And this type tends to creep up much more slowly. Milder symptoms initially, very flu-like.
Ah, okay. So that's the sneaky one.
That's the sneaky one. We saw people talking about this online, actually. Like someone on X posted got thousands of likes, saying their viral pneumonia just sort of crept up slowly, whereas the bacterial one they'd had before hit them like a ton of bricks. People feel that difference.
That variability makes it so deceptive. You could feel unwell for weeks just thinking you're run down.
Exactly. And all that time, the infection could be worsening. And if those symptoms are ignored, especially the more subtle ones, the potential complications are, well, they're terrifying.
Let's talk about those. What happens if it goes untreated?
If we connect the dots, ignoring the signs, particularly if you're in a high-risk group, can lead to really bad outcomes. The scariest is probably sepsis.
Right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, it affects about 10% of pneumonia cases, and it still has that grim 30% mortality rate. It's a systemic infection, basically.
Okay, what else?
Then there's respiratory failure. That happens in about 10% of severe cases. This is when people need ventilators to breathe, according to the CDC. And also pleural effusion, which is fluid building up around the lungs. That's seen in about 15% of cases.
That sounds incredibly painful and dangerous.
It is. And again, you see people sharing their stories online, trying to warn others. We found another post, tons of engagement, basically saying, pneumonia led to sepsis for me. Please don't ignore a persistent cough. It's a powerful message.
It really is. Which brings up a crucial point. Who needs to be most aware? Who are the sources identifying as the highest risk?
But risk isn't evenly spread at all. It's heavily concentrated in specific groups. Older adults, people 65 and over, they account for a staggering 60% of all pneumonia deaths.
60%. Wow.
Yeah. And critically, they're also the group most likely to show confusion as a main symptom, sometimes without a major cough or fever initially.
That's vital information. Looking for behavioral changes, not just physical ones.
Absolutely. Then you have young children under 5. They make up about 20% of the hospitalizations. Also, anyone with underlying chronic conditions, think diabetes, heart disease, COPD, their risk is about 30% higher.
Okay.
And of course, smokers. Their risk is basically doubled compared to non-smokers.
So older adults, young kids, people with chronic illnesses, and smokers need extreme vigilance. That point about confusion in seniors is so important.
It really is. But there's good news, too, on the prevention side. Vaccinations make a big difference. The CDC confirms they can cut the risk by about 40%.
That's significant. Getting vaccinated is key. Let's maybe try and tie this together with a real-world example. Do the sources give any case studies?
Yeah, the American Lung Association has some that really illustrate this. There was one about a 60-year-old retiree. He started feeling unwell, had a cough, felt really tired.
Okay, classic common cold symptoms.
Exactly. So he just dismissed it as that for several days, just kept pushing through, probably focusing on those familiar symptoms. But then the shortness of breath got really bad, debilitating.
Ah, so one of the initial 7, but it got severe.
Right, and that symptom, the severe difficulty breathing, finally pushed him to go to the ER. Turned out he had bacterial pneumonia.
And because he went then.
Because he finally sought care, when that symptom became undeniable, they caught it, gave him antibiotics early, and he recovered. It shows that even the common symptoms, if they persist or get really severe, need attention. But knowing those urgent red flags like the blue lips or severe shortness of breath gives us that crucial window for immediate action.
So bringing this all back home for the listener, what's the practical takeaway here? What should people do with this knowledge?
Well, fundamentally, it means that awareness truly can save lives. Remember, the WHO estimates that about 30% of global pneumonia deaths are preventable.
30%. That's huge on a global scale.
It is. And the main goal here is to slash that 40% misdiagnosis rate. We saw data suggesting that just improving early detection cut U.S. deaths by 20% in 2024 and saved billions. So this knowledge isn't just interesting, it's genuinely powerful. It helps you advocate for yourself or for family members, especially those in the high-risk groups.
Okay, so let's try to summarize the core message from this deep dive. The 7 common symptoms: cough, fever, chills, shortness of breath, chest pain, fatigue, confusion. They're real. They happen often.
But they're also the trap. They overlap too much with other things.
Right. The really vital, potentially life-saving knowledge is recognizing those less common but more urgent signs, nausea and vomiting, especially if it lingers or seems out of place, maybe hinting at viral pneumonia.
And most critically, blue lips or nails. That's the stop everything and get help sign. Low oxygen. Emergency.
And remembering the difference between that sudden hit of bacterial pneumonia versus the slower creep of viral, plus being extra watchful for confusion in older adults.
Exactly. Vigilance is key, especially if symptoms hang around or worsen quickly.
Which leads us perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If we know that simple awareness of these symptoms could potentially prevent 30% of the, 2.5 million global deaths from pneumonia each year, what's the single most actionable thing we can do starting today to make sure the people closest to us, our parents, our grandparents, our kids, even just our friends, would actually recognize that sign of blue lips or understand that crushing fatigue isn't just being tired? How do we make sure they act before it's too late?
That's a really important question to sit with.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this really crucial deep dive today. We genuinely hope this information empowers you. And please remember to visit Mind Expansion Daily for more great info just like this.
Please do.
And before you click away, let us know what you think. Do you agree with our summary of the key symptoms and red flags? Drop a comment below. Oh, and also, please tell us where you're listening from. We're trying to grow our reach around the world, so knowing your location really helps us out.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks again, everyone. Like, subscribe, maybe buy us that coffee if you feel inclined. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.